Hey everyone. So today we want to go ahead and start on Module 1. This should be the first lecture content video that you're watching. Today we're talking about narratives and how this type of writing actually does apply to you after high school. So some of the topics we're going to talk about is what is a narrative compared to what you have grown up thinking a narrative is, why are narratives important, and then why should they be important to you. So we all know of the typical once upon a time story. Most of these types of stories are what you grew up um, reading, associating with the term narrative, and you also had to write a narrative, I believe, your ninth grade year in English 1. Type of narratives we're going to be looking at over the course of this unit are going to be a little different from that. So, what is a narrative? So many times in life, we can feel things happen randomly without causation and with little to no meaning. But that's not exactly how our brain works. Psychologists show, and I will provide you with a TED talk and a couple videos about the psychology of the brain with storytelling. But our brain always wants to make um, reasoning or understand reasons or make meaning out of things when something happens. We like to make connections. And so that is kind of where stories come into play. Um, the understanding that stories first began as a way to teach lessons. And it wasn't just teaching lessons of tradition, it was teaching lessons of survival. How do I get away from predators? How do I survive the weather? How do I build a shelter? How do I cook food? How do I create clothing? All of those things. But that's sort of a little tidbit into why people love stories so much. It gives us a sense of purpose, meaning, and it shapes the world around us, our reality, and our perspective. So, stories are unique to the storyteller. No two stories are identical, sort of like your fingerprint. Your formatting could be unique, your style, your means of writing, what you want to write about, um, the components and the word structures that you include in your writing. But no two stories are going to be the same. An example of this is the folktale Beowulf, which we will actually look at later on in the semester. But it was a very long epic poem, and it was originally told through word of mouth and passed down from generation to generation. But every single version of the story is different. That's because it depends on the storyteller, their culture, their perspective, and their ideas. So you get to uniquely express yourself when you are a storyteller. And we do this every day. Okay, so getting into the whole why does this even apply to me thing, because I know that y'all want to know about this. So, some college stats. In 2020, there is this college website that prepares you for scholarship writing, and they're pretty prominent. It's called goingmerry.com. They took a survey in 2020. They studied over 700 different colleges, and what they pulled were the writing prompts to any scholarship essay that required 250 plus words and provided a $500 or more scholarship. And to the right, you can see what their top 10 prompts were. And it wasn't just that these were the top 10, but 90% of these um, scholarship prompts were in these top 10. Um, And so at least 6 out of the 10 require you to tell some sort of story. To some extent, you have to be a storyteller. So that's very important. And then something else that is going to apply to you later is that number 4 is about failure. Tell us a time you failed and what you learned from it. Something else in terms of what narratives could mean to you later in life, your career stats. So in 2022, there was a top 50 most common job interview questions, and there were several questions requiring you to have to tell stories about yourself, your experiences, express what you could do, what you understand, what you're capable of. So this is the top 12 right here. And just in these top 12, a lot of these were requiring you to tell stories about your leadership skills, moment of failure, moment of weakness, and even achievement. And so down here, I just wanted to tell you about why these are questions that are asked. So managers like to use behavioral interview questions. That's what these are called, like a time you failed, to figure out the kind of person you are and to go ahead and search for red flags. With these sorts of questions, you should be showing how you can deal with a difficult situation and how you can turn it into a learning experience. You also want to explain how you have grown and have learned to avoid repeating that past mistake. So it's all about you showing your maturity with things. And storytelling is a growth piece. So the better you get at it, the better your stories get, and the more impressed your audience is. Okay, so some takeaways from today. People will tell stories in order to make connections and learn. In the beginning, stories were used to teach lessons of survival and traditions within a culture. As human beings, we crave to understand and make sense of things. This is where stories come into play. Narratives do not have to be fictional and appear throughout our daily lives, careers, socializing, education, entertainment, etc. They're everywhere. Failure and success stories are very popular among competition topics for scholarships and job interviews. And so that is why narratives are going to be important for you to embrace now versus later. So, Walt Disney said the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. And that's exactly what we're about to start doing.